This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stockbox interview. Welcome back to the Research Talks here on Stockbox with Alan Green. Alan, it's the end of the week yet again. How are you doing?
It's the end of the week, Mark, and we are sitting here waiting for Storm Eunice. And in fact, we've already had some minor damage. We have a bay tree that sits in a big tall pot, and that's been blown over, and the pot's crashed. So I've got to go out and clear that up a bit later on. But all good apart from that. Been a bit of funny all week. It's been busy, but the markets I think have got a bit spooked by what's going on in the Ukraine and Mr. Putin and his territorial ambitions. So it's been a quiet one, but I'm glad it's the end of the week.
It's been a bit of a funny one, on the markets, but I think that's all a bit blown. I think it's all over. I think it's blown up a bit too much. Then I think it's probably will amount to not a lot. But exactly. He's done what he's got the attention. That's for sure. Maybe some of the Western leaders will actually try and consider what his point is, and then we can all get on one day. Wouldn't that be lovely? Yeah.
Well, I think fundamentally it's about NATO, isn't it? It's about NATO. Yeah. If the Ukraine joins NATO, that's then Putin will invade. And I think, to be frank, if you're a Russian, he's probably got a point. Because there's got to be a balance. There's got to be a trade-off because Russia's got its own territories. So, but anyway, that we're not here to talk about that. So.
No. We're here to talk today about MetalNRG.
MetalNRG.
And Coinsilium, who we haven't spoken about for a little while. And I noticed they had some news just today, wasn't it, I think?
Yes, it was. Yeah. Well, let's talk about MetalNRG first of all. Then we'll discuss the latest with Coinsilium, because there's a lot going behind the scenes there, which really sort of points to a pretty exciting year in prospect. But also the same applies to MetalNRG, of course. MNRG, the Epic code, shares have traded as high as 1.25p and as low as 0.18p, and we're just off those year lows now at 0.2p, giving the company a market cap of 2.3 million, which is derisory considering the assets the company owns and controls. So the company that sets its stall out as an investor into precious and strategic metals and into strategic projects that it believes will deliver. There was a very good note published recently by Align Research, which gave a great summary of the company, and also at the same time provided an assessment with a conservative valuation and a target price of 1.2p and a speculative buy stance, given where each project was in its particular point of evolution. So firstly, we'll look at the Gold Ridge project, and the Gold Ridge project is a series of historic mines in Arizona, and the company has the company owns these assets and is. With a 100% interest, it's been working over the past year or so to develop the asset and to establish exactly what's under the ground there. So these mines consist of the Gold Ridge mine, the Gold Prince mine, and the Dives mine, and they're located at the southern end of the Dos Cabezas Mountains. The area is some 5 kilometers, and there are a series of tailings there from the historic workings previously, and across those tailings you've got readings of up to 6.5 grams per ton of gold across all levels, so highly significant in that regard. Last year SRK, of course, the well-known the well-known sort of analysts and company analysts and geologists undertook a data review and said there was potential there for discovery of further mineralization, and recommended a two-stage program to develop the asset and take it forward. And indeed, in October and November last year, the company provided an update on Gold Ridge. It now has obtained some 35 historical documents, which include several previously unrecorded mines in the area. So they're finding out more about the asset. They've accelerated the work program there, initiated soil geochemical sampling, and they're going to collect up to, well, I think they were collected up to 1,000 samples across across an area of some 75 meters, and those samples are currently with the labs for assay results, which we will hear about very shortly. So that's the Gold Ridge project brought up to date. Also worth noting that the company has a major shareholder in the form of a gentleman by the name of Ed Spencer, who now owns 8.1%, up from 2.7% earlier or in the middle of last year. So that's significant. The cloud on the horizon, I think, probably for MNRG has been centered around the Brit NRG asset, which of course is no longer included in the company's assets. The former director of that asset, Pier Paolo Rocco, failed to disclose some key information, and as a result, the company is now taking legal action to achieve satisfaction to settle that matter legally. So we're going to sort of ring fence that and put it to one side. It's not worth talking about until that's resolved. Nonetheless, it makes no material impact on the valuation of MNRG. I think it's important to realise that. So there is another asset which has been it's been dormant for some time, and that's the uranium project in Kyrgyzstan. And as we know, the uranium market has recently sparked back into life. Perhaps spark is the wrong analogy to use there. Nonetheless, it's really come back to life. It's now selling for some $40 an ounce, and of course, several companies have repositioned themselves, Power Metal Resources included, to move into the uranium projects. So this is in Kyrgyzstan. It's owned by a company called Mining Company Invest, and MNRG owns 9.9% of that. The prior administration in Kyrgyzstan imposed a countrywide ban, but with a new government in place now, there are hopes of a positive outcome there to bring that project back to life. And obviously, given the case, given the renewed interest in uranium, that's very possible. So although it's a back burner project, it could suddenly any developments there could result in a material re-rating, because of course it is a huge asset. So the company has the opportunity to gain up to a 51% stake in this asset by putting the funding in place, but of course that will be subject to the developments with the government there, and of course the positive outcome that I've just touched on. Nonetheless, a great potential there for development this year. Then, of course, we come to the project which is probably front and center in MNRG's strategy, and that, of course, is the joint venture with ECTEC, which is the company developing shovel-ready green infrastructure projects around the world. Now, the first deal, MNRG holds a 26.6% interest in an Italian asset in Tuscany, and this, of course, is it's a biomass energy plant which burns straw pellets, wood chip, and so on. This will be brought on stream during 2022, and indeed the the company conducted a share swap with EGTEC, which was worth some 295,000. MNRG subscribed for 23.6 million EGTEC shares, and EGTEC in turn subscribed for 100 million shares in MNRG. So that's a very strong commitment between the two companies, and very much binds them together for jointly developing these future projects. The latest update from the Tuscany project took place at the start of February. The Italia MDC SRL site is now fully cleared, and all of the components are ready on site for assembly to bring the plant into life. Once the plant is operational, it's estimated that the biomass plant will generate some annual revenues of some 2 million euros, with EBITDA of 750,000. And of course, this will be meaningful revenues into MNRG, which is 26.6% owner there. There's also potential too for using higher margin feedstock, and offtake agreements there could improve these numbers further still. So that's very much as we stand at the start. Great potential there for developments, and I think the share commitment or the share swap that took place in December really highlights and puts down a foundation for developing further projects together with EGTEC as the year progresses. So, of course, Rolf Gerritsen is the chief executive, the guy at the forefront of the company. You'll see Rolf interviewed and discussing the opportunity on various channels, and of course here on Stopbox, he's interviewed very regularly. Mark is, of course, you've also done some research yourself into MNRG, which is also available to view, I believe. But Rolf has many years experience, well over 30 years experience. He's multilingual, speaks 4 languages, and he's very good at putting deals together. And I think MetalNRG really is a reflection of his ability to put different asset packages together and make them work as a combined and a complete entity. Chris Campbell, chairman, a chartered accountant in Zimbabwe. He's also was engaged in a coal bed methane asset in Zimbabwe. And non-exec director Christian Schafliski, of course, needs no introduction. Many years experience engaged, of course, in Eurasia mining, which has been a huge success out there. In both for Eurasia and the other work he's done, and he's also very high profile amongst retail investors. They'll know his name very well. So, in summary, I think we've got a company that has a number of assets that are set to explode into life this year, and I don't think the 1.2p price target stated by Align Research is in any way unachievable. And I think any one of these projects developing and coming to life in the first quarter of 2022 could well see a significant move back towards that level. And I think the Goldridge project and the joint venture with EGTEC obviously underscore the valuation at the moment, which seems to me to be ludicrously low, but it's going to be exciting to see how the uranium project in Kyrgyzstan comes to life, because if that comes to life, and MetalNRG can raise the money to acquire 51% of that, it could be absolutely huge. So big year in prospect.
I would tend to agree on the joint venture with EQTech there, and Goldridge being the kind of the value there to be had. I mean, you've got, if you want to sort of think about it, Goldridge is kind of the exciting exploration side of it, whereas the EQTech is more of the it's not exciting, but it's more of the steady kind of value building and revenue building, which should come
value and revenue
fairly soon. And yes, you're right, that research note, I did do a little analysis piece on it, because it's a huge note. It's 25 pages long, and not everyone has time to read through that, so I did try to distill the note into a video that is 20 minutes long. So it's a little bit long maybe, but I did try to distill some of the key points, and Yeah, they do put all the valuations there. Goldridge, they sort of put a value on of 3.17 million. That was based on a comparable project nearby. And I believe they're going to be on site fairly soon, actually doing some work at Goldridge. So, yeah, that will get that initial soil sampling and geochem underway, I think, and start developing that a little bit further. And then EQ Tech, again, the valuation there was 3.25. It was based on, I think, two or three similar deals. But having spoken to both Rolf and David Palumbo from EQ Tech, that's very achievable. They've got a lot that's on the boil, so to speak.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it does certainly at this price represent quite an attractive value proposition. You just may have to, buy and hold for a little bit, but that's the point, isn't it? That's what you do. You find these companies that are undervalued, and if you can put some money away for a bit of time, then you hopefully will be rewarded in due course.
Well, I think it's the diversity of these projects that also attracts too. You've got a gold project, which looks as though it has great potential. You've got the ECTech project with David Palumbo, and of course the commitment, the share swap commitment in December, which really I think solidifies that relationship going forward. David Palumbo's got a partner in Rolf and MetalNRG that he can go forward and look at possibly more ambitious projects, because there's another potential source of funding in the wings there, ready to support any developments. But as you say, that the valuation of 3 million, if that supports another couple of projects, it's going to be a big cash generator, this as well. And that's the important thing. When you're developing a company like this, you've still got to have cash to pay the bills, to pay the geo teams, to pay the on-site contractors, all the rest of it. So it's an important cash generator, and with that sort of money coming in, it provides a very strong platform to develop the company to the next level.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that, Alan. So, Coinsilium and the metaverse and NFTs and crypto.
Yes, the metaverse, NFTs, and crypto. Goodness me! Well, we were talking, of course, before we came on air about how that market's developed, and the valuations that are being achieved by some of these NFTs, and also how youngsters now are just engaging with the metaverse to the point where they're almost shutting out real life and day-to-day stuff. But that's the way the market is developing.
Well, Coinsilium, of course, we spoke. We've spoken about the company on a number of occasions. It's dual listed on the Aquis market, and of course, we've spoken about the Aquis exchange. I'm actually a big fan of this exchange. I think it's going to really do some great things in the next few years. The shares are currently trading at 4.1p, and of course, that gives the company market capitalization of just over 7 million. And the shares have really traded flat since, of course, the big boom last year, which was very much driven by, I guess we could say, round one of the NFTs. And that, of course, is when Coinsilium announced that it had formed a joint venture with Endorse, namely Nifty Labs, to develop an NFT marketplace. The shares, as I say, at that time hit a brief intraday high of 34p, and the good thing is with Coinsilium being dual listed, it's got a huge US following, so the OTC venture market shareholders and traders were going gangbusters for it on the bulletin boards over in the US. But as we know, I think we've seen the initial burst of NFT interest and activity, and now, of course, there are issues of proving provenance and the longer term value, and of course the arrival of the metaverse as well. Everyone's looking at this sector, but nonetheless, Coinsilium have continued to develop and diversify. Of course, they announced last year they had crypto, and this is at the end of last year, crypto assets that were worth $4.25 million in November. with Bitcoin and Ethereum making up 83% of that holding. We know, of course, that the value of crypto has come back quite dramatically since that time, so that it'll be worth less as we speak, which probably to some extent reflects the fall in the share price. Also, a strategic investor last year, of course, paid 10p per share to buy up the remaining treasury shares, and that should send out a really strong signal to people looking at the company, because, of course, there's the company bought the shares. They are also a longer-term holder or a long-term holder in Coinsilium shares. So I'm sure investors can look at that and see a strategic picture emerging there. Coinsilium also invested into the digital bank GreenGage. They took a 300,000 equity stake and convertible loan at 200,000, valuing GreenGage at just over 27 million. We know, of course, that GreenGage decided against going for a Gibraltar banking license, and they are now proceeding with a UK banking license application, and also they've applied for an e-money license, which we should hear something about in the coming months. But of course, the Coinsilium have invested into GreenGage as a digital bank, and they are exploring opportunities together. Of course, Sean Kiernan, if you've seen him interviewed, is very good, the CEO at GreenGage, and the two companies are exploring what they can do together in the space going forward. And of course, GreenGage provides banking services to companies in the crypto space that perhaps can't get a bank account in the conventional sense. We then come to the NFT marketplace, and of course, this is what, as I said just now, what drove the share price last year. The company announced it was beta testing, or the Nifty Labs announced it was beta testing the platform in January. There was a seminar showing some of the products being trialed and tested, and of course, that is developing. The company is will be white labeling the marketplace to major brands in the marketplace that want to develop NFT products in the space, and of course have control of it themselves. And we don't know what the commercial model behind that will be, but I would suspect it will be something of a commission-based arrangement based on the amount of sales that the company makes. Latest news, of course, the company announced at the end of last week that it'd been appointed as an advisor, and this is Coinsilium, as an advisor to lifestyle fashion brand Black Paris. And Black, I suppose, are very much a digital goth brand, but they've been hugely successful, led by designer Julian O'Hayan. They've launched the Black Genesis NFT collection, and Coinsilium have been appointed to provide strategic advisory services directly to Black Paris for the launch, providing advice in respect of the NFT market, and of course helping to promote the collection. And Eddie Travier certainly is very enthused by the opportunity, I think, here, and I'm sure we're going to hear more about the relationship with Black Paris going forward. But certainly I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes at Coinsilium, and I think the NFT marketplace, of course, we're all very excited about, and given, as I say, going back, that investor bought shares at 10p last year, I think there is some genuine upside on offer for investors and shareholders in Coinsilium as we go forward into 2022. And just a footnote there, we know, of course, after they raised money last year, they raised 1.1 million. They are certainly well funded for the foreseeable future.
Well funded at 1.4 million. Yes, indeed. That's good to hear. And of course, that deal they've done there with Black, you say that was it, fashion house.
It's a fashion house in Paris. Yeah, that's right.
Very significant. I mean, I know we've spoken about Coinsilium before, and of course they've been involved in projects, haven't they? The crypto stamp that me and you both bought,
Yes.
and the block
and
bots,
still hold,
and the block bots as well, as well as all the other NFT and crypto projects that they're working on. But I like this because this is a very tangible business element that Coin have now done that really can, I think it can start to transform that business and give some real clarity as to what the business is all about, what they're trying to build, and of course, get revenue streaming, which is of course important as well to where they're going. So I think that hopefully that's the start of many, because NFTs are not, they're not going away, just like crypto's not going away. And a lot of brands are going to have to get on board with these, with this idea, this concept, whatever you want to call it. And they're going to need platforms to do it, aren't they? And if Coinsilium can provide that.
I think also as the NFT space evolves, companies they're going to want to get involved in NFTs, but they'll want control. And I think Malcolm Pally described it last year as providing the picks and shovels to the NFT industry. So they're providing a platform that companies can have control of. And, as I say, I speculate that commercially, Coinsilium Nifty Labs will probably end up taking a commission from each sale or each transaction that takes place on that platform. But that's a good model to have. It's a bit like being a bank in a sense. You get a little cut of every transaction that takes place. You bring more customers on board, and all of a sudden that adds up, and you're generating a whole load of cash.
Well, thank you very much for bringing us up to date there on both MetalNRG and Coinsilium. And well, thank you very much, Alan, and we'll speak again next week.
Thanks, Mark. Speak next week.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stopboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.